Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Chelsea are in another European final. If we win against Real Betis in 24 hours' time, Chelsea will officially be the first club ever to win absolutely everything. And look, I say that shamelessly because your Real Madrids of this world, I don't think they'll ever be in the Conference League unless something dramatic were to happen in Spain. But Chelsea Football Club this season, we were in the competition, and it was all thanks to Erik ten Hag's Manchester United winning the FA Cup against Man City at the end of last season. If they would have lost that and City would have won it, Chelsea would have been in the Europa League. Do I think Chelsea could have and should have won the Europa League if we'd have been in that? Well, absolutely, when you look at the club that have gone and won that trophy. But Chelsea here have an opportunity to get the first trophy of the new ownership. And I tell you what, I know it's only the Conference League and this isn't the caliber of competition that really defines something as being a big success or not, because Chelsea should be winning this regardless of how much money we'd have spent, who was going to be the owner. But the fact of the matter is, we couldn't have done any more than win the Conference League this year when it comes to European football, because we weren't in any of the other ones. So it's not like the old days of the Champions League where if Chelsea would go out in the group stages, finish in third place, then we go into the Europa League and then we always win the Europa League when we're in there. This year, we can only beat what is put in front of us. And look, we've had some dreadful sides that we've played. We played bloody Noah and scored 8 goals. We had the Irish come into town. Shamrock Rovers conceded 5 against us at Stamford Bridge just before Christmas. But this is a young team that have made progress this season. We finished 4th in the Premier League. The atmosphere at the end of that game at Forest, you can see that it means a lot to those players to be back at Europe's top table, to be back in the Premier League top 4. But to now finish the season with a trophy, I think this would define Enzo Maresca's first year as Chelsea manager as a success. I was very disappointed with the nature of how we lost to Newcastle and Brighton in both the Carabao and the FA Cup. But in this competition, we've been good. And I'm going to go through Real Betis because they are the opponents that we face tomorrow. And Real Betis this season in La Liga, you guys can see it here. 6th in La Liga, qualifying for next season's Europa League. Barcelona are the top team, Real Madrid second, all of those teams above them. And Real Betis finished 10 points behind Villarreal and 5 ahead of Celta Vigo. So quite comfortably, Betis finishing in 6th, 38 games played, 16 wins. They lost 10 times, which obviously Chelsea's Premier League record is significantly better than what we see there from Real Betis. If we also take a look at their fixtures in the competition this year, I mean, I can't even flipping say half of these teams. Krivabas? Yeah, that sounds like a fish that you'd find in a river. Legia Warsaw, they lost to them. FC Copenhagen, they drew with them. Chelsea beat them. Celje from Slovakia. Mlada Boleslav from Czech Republic. Petro Cub. That sounds like a goalkeeper Chelsea might try and sign. Like, look at their run. Fiorentina in the semi-final is the only team there that I actually bloody recognise. It's insane. So they beat Fiorentina in the semi-final 4-3. They've got some good players, Real Betis. They've obviously got Antony, who the media seem to love this narrative about Antony, right? Because I'm not going to belittle him here, because if he does win tomorrow, that media narrative, the steam train keeps getting a little faster. But he left Manchester United. He was woeful at Manchester United, and he's spoken about it recently. He's very emotional about his time there because he was not in a very good place mentally. And then credit to him, he's gone to Betis and he's massively turned it around. But I wouldn't say that he's been outrageously good. It's not like he's all of a sudden become the best winger in Europe. I think it's a huge exaggeration, and because it was Man United and it was bad, and now it's Betis and he was good, I think the fact he left Manchester United in such bad form makes this whole glow up that he's had in recent times just that much more entertaining to write about or speak about. If we do look at Betis here though, XG-wise, they've created a lot of opportunities this season in the competition. They had an XG of 3.3 against Jagiellonia of Poland in the quarterfinals, 2.7 against Fiorentina. They do create a lot of opportunities possession-wise. They're not always massively dominant on the ball. You can see here Chelsea's numbers have been so much more than this possession-wise. in the Conference League this season. If we do take a look at Chelsea in the competition, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Tyrique George have had the most matches played in this competition this season. Philip Jorgensen has been the cup goalkeeper. Badiashile and Tosin have also been a combination that have played a lot in the tournament. In Nkunku, he's not going to feature, is he? I think he probably won't even be in the squad tomorrow. I think he's done at Chelsea. And we have made a lot of changes to our Conference League team this season. The question is, what do I think the team is going to be? Do we go with a full-strength team and be like, look, we've messed around in this competition all year. Now we're in the final. Let's just go there, lift the trophy, win it. We're in the Champions League anyway. It would have been Europa League if we'd have won it. But it is a first trophy for this very young team, a team that do look incredibly together right now. So I'm trying to pick my 11. And in my head, I'm thinking, I kind of want to do a mixture of everything. I've got players in my mind that I think should definitely come off the bench and finish the game if Chelsea get the match done early. And I'm also caught between, do I go with just a full-strength starting 11? We try and beat Betis early, and then we bring some players on that have been important during this run-in. I'm currently still thinking about it as I'm making this video. But what I will say is there is a lot of players here. If we go and bring the list back up again, like Mark Guiu, for example, he's definitely not going to be fit enough to start, in my opinion. But he's got 6 goals in the competition in 6 matches, which is absolutely fantastic. Cucurella has obviously got 2 in 8 as well. Dewsbury-Hall has scored 4 goals in this competition this year. And I think, to be fair, Dewsbury-Hall has actually performed pretty well. I think there's a couple of players at Chelsea who this season, right? Tosin is one that's gone completely under the radar to me. I don't think he's made any mistakes in the Premier League when he's played, and then was monstrous at the weekend for us. And Dewsbury-Hall, yes, it's not going to be turning up any leaves, but he's played over 1,000 minutes in this competition this season. So he's had an important part to play. 11.2 90s for Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. So, Chelsea versus Betis, Europa Conference League Final. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel because we're going to be live for the game tomorrow. And smack a like on this video. It is officially the final game of the season. This is the preview. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and build the Chelsea starting 11 before we give some final predictions. So then, we don't have the usual lineup graphics today, but this is the Chelsea starting 11 that I'm going with. Philip Jorgensen, obviously, is the goalkeeper. Enzo Maresca has told us that from last week. Reece James in at right back. Trevor Chalobah, Colwill, Cucurella. I'm going with, in what is my opinion, the strongest possible back line for this game. Because look, Tosin was pretty spectacular in that game against Nottingham Forest. 12 clearances. Absolutely justified, vindicated Maresca's decision to play him. But I think this match for Trevor Chalobah means a lot because it's an opportunity for him to win a trophy in Chelsea's back line, to play in a final. It's massive for him. He's been at Chelsea his whole life. And every single summer, Trevor Chalobah is either told he's up for sale, he wasn't on the pre-season tour last year, and I think this is another opportunity against the solid Real Betis side to win Chelsea a trophy, where Trevor Chalobah can say, you know what, you can sell me if you want to, but you're going to struggle to find a better centre-back. Levi Colwill, I think, has to play because he's been incredibly good at the end of this season. Badiashile, as we said earlier in this video, Badiashile's actually played quite a lot of minutes in this competition, but I think Colwill's got to play because he's in such good form. Mark Cucurella as well is an ever-present at left-back. And again, Chelsea were talking a lot about we need a centre-back, or we want to buy a goalkeeper, or we need to buy 2 strikers. We need to replace Nkunku and Felix. But what was to happen this season if Mark Cucurella actually picked up an injury? Because Malo Gusto is not actually a left-back, and he's been poor this season overall. So if anything would have happened to Cucurella, thank goodness that it didn't. But he's obviously going to be the left back. Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. I would have picked Romeo Lavia to start this match, but he's not even registered in the competition. And then moving forward, Cole Palmer's obviously got to play. Nicholas Jackson, we'll talk about him in a second. But Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Tyrique George have featured more than any other players in this competition this season. So as much as we might want to see maybe a Madueke or a Neto or even a Jadon Sancho, and it could even be Sancho's last Chelsea appearance if we don't sign him from Manchester United, I think Tyrique George, 3 goal contributions in the competition. Dewsbury Hall's got 4 goals in the competition. I think these guys do deserve to play. And it's kind of one of those lineups that is a mixture between what I think Maresca will do, which is to pick a very strong team. I think apart from Dewsbury Hall and Tyrique George, I'd argue that this is the strongest possible Chelsea 11 that we could field. But I do think these two have had a big say in the competition, and I do think he'll put them in there. Wouldn't be surprised if we did see Josh Achampong potentially over Reece James at right back, maybe even Malo Gusto, just because Maresca might not want to play Reece James twice in 3 days. Because look, Real Betis have had an extra 48 hours to prepare for this game. And for Chelsea, we're off the back of such an intense, emotional match at the City ground, and then we're forced to go straight into a cup final. I don't know why, considering all of the leagues are done in both Spain and in England. I'm not sure why this couldn't be on a Thursday night, but it is what it is. Nicholas Jackson starting up top here in this 4-2-3-1 for Chelsea Football Club. A lot of people might say, well, Mark Guiu's got 6 goals in this competition, you should start him. But the fact he didn't even come on against Forest, I can't imagine Mark Guiu is fit enough to start in a final right now, having missed the last 3 months of football with injuries. So Nicholas Jackson, despite not featuring in the last 2 league games, I'm sure when Jackson is looking on the internet right now, which I'm sure every footballer in the modern world, they might say they try not to, but I'm sure they know what's being said. They know what's going on. And Nicholas Jackson knows that since that red card, he's not really been every Chelsea fan's favourite person. So when Chelsea are being linked with 2 strikers, and if you haven't seen the Chelsea news video from earlier today, Chelsea being linked with 2 strikers means this guy might have numbered days at Chelsea. I personally would love to keep Nicholas Jackson. I think Jackson is a player that will continue to develop, but this season, the second half of the season has been so poor that I wouldn't be too surprised if Enzo Maresca actually did go and maybe did something like this with Pedro Neto actually being the lead man for Chelsea. Or maybe we see Madueke on the left wing, Neto up top, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually something that we see from Enzo Maresca, because Nicholas Jackson, even though it doesn't really matter anymore that Chelsea are in the Champions League, that's what we wanted, that's what we strived for, Nicholas Jackson let us down against Newcastle. And I think it's quite difficult when you see the amount of effort that's been put in by the other players that have played since that game. It's quite difficult to be like, well, go out there and do it in a final. But I do think Nicholas Jackson will be the Chelsea striker, and I think he's going to score. My score prediction for the Conference League Final between Chelsea and Real Betis, I think Betis will score, but I'm going to go Cole Palmer to score in a final, Nicholas Jackson to score in a final, and Enzo Fernandez. I'm going to say Chelsea are going to beat Real Betis by 3-2. I think it's going to be an entertaining final. I think for Chelsea, we're going to look at this game and be like, well, we've achieved the number 1 target. Yes, this is a trophy, but it is the flipping Conference League. It is the 3rd tier of European football. And I would say this season, for me, it's probably the 4th most important trophy that we could have won. I'd say the Premier League was number 1, FA Cup number 2, Carabao Cup 3, Conference League number 4 for me this year. Because look, we've won 2 Champions Leagues. We've won 2 Europa Leagues. The fact we're in this competition was a technicality at the end of last season where Manchester United pushed us in there. And to be fair, we've not really been tested this season. Yes, we were beaten by Servette. Yes, we had the flipping Legia Warsaw game at Stamford Bridge, but we've not been tested. We didn't really have to try in those second legs. So I think this is the Chelsea 11, and I think we're going to beat them 3-2. Credit to Betis. They've had a decent season. They've done well against some of the bigger teams in La Liga. I think they've beaten Real Madrid. I think they've got a result against Barcelona or Atletico. They've done very well against the big teams. So they know how to give a solid account for themselves. They've got some talented footballers. But I think Chelsea, off the back of securing Champions League qualification at the weekend, I think we're so ready for this. If we go off the back of Sunday and then add a trophy into that, the first one of this ownership era, then I don't think we can say we're in a worse place than we were a few months ago. That is certainly an improvement. It's 100% recognisable progress. And then we go hard into the transfer market and we go hard into the Club World Cup. Thank you guys for watching. If you aren't already aware, I will be live for the game tomorrow. I'm going to go live about 75 minutes to an hour and a half before kickoff. And of course, 6 things we learn after every single game. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the stream or maybe in a news video tomorrow. There's so much going on right now. So wouldn't be surprised if there's another video before the watch along. See you guys there.